Hello everyone, welcome back to Tinateach Python. Today's lesson is about while loops. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at while loops before we dive into a more detailed explanation of our for loops that we've encountered before and that we've experimented with. So now, this lesson is mainly going to be while loops with a little bit of a feature from for loops, okay? Now, let's move on to primitive loops. So Python has two primitive loops, as I've said before, while loops and for loops. They're the basic, they're the core, very unanimous. For while loops, okay, remember to increment by 1. Otherwise, the loop will continue forever and your system may crash, or your device may stop working because it's simply just on and on and on and too much data, okay? The while loop needs to have an indexing variable denoted I. Now, I is just a placeholder. You can replace it with anything. You can give it a more coherent name. If I is set to 1, the loop will increment by 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it's set to 2, it'll increase by 2. 2, 4, 6, 8. The same with 3, same with 4, whichever number you put in. So I have an example here of while loops. I equals to 1, while I is less than 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Less than 10. Print I and increment by 1. So I starts at 1, right? Now it's at 1. It is less than 10. The condition is true. Print 1 and then increment by 1. So it becomes 2. Now 2 is also less than 10. So print 2 and increment by 1. So we have 3. Now 3 is also less than 10. And it goes on and on like that until we reach 9, okay? It does not print out 10. It's just 1 to 9 because it has to be less than 10, right? Now 10 is not less than 10. 10 is equal to 10. And here is a little feature from for loop. You know the drill. For value in new dictionary, for example, print value, and this will print every value that is in this dictionary here, 1 by 1, okay? Now, let's have a look at the break statement. So the break statement will stop the loop even if the condition is true. Now, I is set to 1, as we've seen over here. When I is less than 10, so, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, print I. But once I is equal to 5, take a break, okay? Stop the loop immediately, just stop at 5. Even though 5 is still less than 10 and this condition is still true and it should be printing, but take a break, okay? So that's what the break statement is for, very useful. Now, next up is the continue statement. This will basically stop the current iteration and hops on to the next. It's a more fancy way of saying that the continue statement skips, okay? Let's say if I equals to 3, continue. That means it goes 1, 2, skip 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? So that's what the continue statement is for. Very simple. Next up is the else statement. While, also employs the else statement like the if statement does, using the else statement, you can run a block of code when a condition is false. So our example over here, I equals to 1, while I is less than 10, print I, then increment by 1, else print I is no longer less than 10. So this would run until 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 9 is the last number that is less than 10 until we reach 10. Now, instead of printing 10, it prints I is no longer less than 10, okay? So let's have a classic while loop. I'm gonna use, instead of I, I'm gonna use, let's say, U, okay? Well, not capitalized, u is equal to 1 while u is less than 20, let's say print u, and let's go down here and increment u by 1, okay? Now this is what it's going to look like. As you can see here, it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, stops at 19, okay? Because 19 is the last number that is less than 20. And you can do this with, let's say, 7. Okay, let's try with 7. So that is 7 for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, I don't want to start at 1. What if I want to start at 3? 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, very simple, very straightforward. Let's have another while loop. This time with the break statement. So let's not try u. Let's use start equals to 2. Okay, while start is less than 15, print start. If start equals to 8, let's say, break. Let's go down here and start increment by 1. Now let's see how this works out. Okay, so my bad. This is actually start larger than 15. It doesn't make sense, right? So Python doesn't print anything. I'm just going to change this into less than. And let's see what we have. Okay, it starts at 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and immediately break at 8. Okay, now let's see what happens if we increment. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, immediately stop at 8. Okay, so that is how it works. Now let's continue with the continue statement. Okay, it skips. Now let's move on with the continue statement. Okay, while start is less than, let's say, 9, start increment by 1. If start equals to 4, continue, and then let's go down here and print start. All right, now let's run this. Okay, as you can see, we have 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It skips the 4 completely. Now, if I just change this into 8, it will skip the 8. Okay, there's no 8 in this. Last but not least, let's experiment with the else statement. Let's erase all of this. I'm going to change this into 1 while start is less than 20. Okay, let's go something big. Print start. Start increment by 1. Let's go back. Else print sad face. Let's just print a sad face. Okay. Start is no longer less than 20. And we run this. Okay. It goes 1, 2, 3, up until 19, and then start is no longer less than 20. Now let's change this to maybe 5, and let's change this to 5 as well. And 1, 2, 3, 4, start is no longer less than 5. Okay. Now let's try changing this to equal sign. Let's increase this. No longer less or equal. Well, let's simply just print start is no longer less or equal to 20, right? Because start is 1, and this condition evaluates into false. Now let's change this to this. And this is what we get. Instead of skipping the 20 and just print 19, this time it actually prints 20, and it says start is no longer less or equal to 20. Okay? Now, that's it for while loops. I hope that you enjoyed this lesson. So our next topic is going to be about for loops. Okay, so I hope that you'll tune into that because for loops is very useful. It's very, very universal. You can basically see it everywhere. Any websites you visit, or like any program or software that you may have used, If it includes Python, it's very likely that for loop was included, as well as a while loop. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Learn today, better tomorrow. Goodbye.